My great-grandfather, Francesco Cavallone, his brother Vincenzo, and his future father-in-law, Michele Libretti, came to Chicago from Sassano in the late 1890s. Sassano is a small town in Campania, approximately 80 miles southeast of Naples. And the three of them were the first Sassanese to settle in Chicago. There were several, probably about 30 families that ultimately came between 1900 and about 1940. Again, my great-grandfather was one of the pioneers to come to Chicago. Sassanese were coming to America, settling in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut prior to that. And they settled in an area of 48th and Federal Street, about 4 blocks surrounding that general area. And it's a pretty much long forgotten Italian enclave in Chicago, probably because in the late 50s, that area, the homes were bought by the Chicago Housing Authority, and the Robert Taylor homes were built in its place. So the Italians had in that area had moved southwest into the neighborhoods of Ashburn and Gage Park area and such. So there's not much written about this Italian group, though they've made some major impacts, including Club de Lisa, which was a very popular club on 55th and State Street. Our Sassanese owned real estate. As a matter of fact, speaking of real estate, they were the primary homeowners after they moved to the Pearl Street area. Pretty much they figured out a way to save enough and purchase the homes that they lived in. That area was mixed Italian and African American. And so they again became real estate owners. They owned properties and rented, restaurant owners, bar owners, saloon establishments. So they lived the American dream. They came from high poverty. Most of them didn't own much in Italy. They farmed. It was the southern part of Italy, and they made America. They lived the American dream. It never reached higher than like 5,500 people. In the 1700s, it was 1,500 people. So when we say family, pretty much anybody from Sassano is some form of cousin. We're second, third. If you do any genealogy, which that's one of the things that I do, you'll find that if you're from Sassano, ultimately you're connected somehow. So not directly, but anybody that's living in Sassano that whose family has been there the hundreds of years, were related. The census records from 1900, 1910, 1920, pretty much everybody that was Italian that lived in that area started out as a junk dealer, collecting scraps and whatnot. And they eventually moved on to working for the city of Chicago, owning property. As I'm currently doing the research on the properties of Federal Street, I'm learning that they own several pieces of several properties along that that strip of land. So they understood the importance of property ownership at very early on. And again, they spoke Italian, so they figured out a way to obtain these properties. And they had 7 children, and half of them were born in Chicago and half were born in Sassano. Ironically, the adopted church in Chicago was Santa Maria Inquinata, which is in Chinatown right now. And though they attended that church, Francesco and Rosa took their children to Sassano, even the ones that were born in Chicago, and had them baptized at San Giovanni Evangelista church in Sassano. They came to America, you had to become American. So though they may have spoke Italian in the house, that first generation that came over, it was mandatory that English was the language that you learned. And that was one of the pitfalls of wanting to assimilate to the American way, is they, many of us was that third generation, second generation Italians. We don't speak Italian. Now, those that have come after in the 40s, 50s, 60s, they maintained a little more of the culture of speaking Italian. And I'm amazed that when I visit those cousins, that they speak Italian and Spanish. My grandparents are John Cavallone, where I get my name from, John. And he married outside of the Sassanese. He's still married Italian. Francis Matrosi. So he was the baby of the 7 surviving children. They owned Cavallone's Pizzeria. Ultimately, it started out as C&M Pizza on 52nd and Halsted. They jumped back and forth from California. So they had a Cavallone's in California, and when they came back to Chicago, they had a Cavallone's at 63rd and Pulaski. Wow. My uncle had taken over, Andy Cavallone, and he had Cavallone's Pizzeria at 57th and Pulaski. Similarities. Christopher Columbus was looking for new opportunities, so he discovered America. And I would have to say that's the same for many Italian families. They wanted new opportunities. They wanted what they couldn't necessarily obtain in their homeland in Italy. America at the time was the land of opportunity, and they sailed across the sea. This was obviously, planes were not the way of transportation, so they sailed across the Atlantic to get to America, to take advantage of the opportunities that America could provide for them and their families in the future. Mm-hmm. My daughter, when she was in 8th grade, got an assignment from her social studies teacher to find out who came to America and why. And I really didn't know much about my family outside of my grandparents, and I knew a little bit about my great grandparents, but I didn't realize how big the family was. So when I started putting everything together, that family was extremely happy about what I was doing. They invited various descendants of Francesco, invited me over, and they shared family pictures with me, what it was like growing up in America, and it was amazing. So all the stuff that I've learned over time, I set up a website, sassanochicago.org, so they and others from Sassano can learn about their families. So currently, yeah, everybody that in my family, second, third cousins, is completely aware of our family history. Again, bringing up that the information on the Sassanese that came to Chicago is available at www.sassanochicago.org. A lot of this, there's a ton of free information on there. And again, I also help people who are looking to find their ancestry. I do genealogy work as well.